Welcome to the Town of Mount Pleasant Planning Board meeting, regularly scheduled for April 3rd, 2025 at 7:30 p.m. A little too close to my face, maybe. Lenny's on it. Okay, so first up on the agenda, we have, just for the whole agenda, we have business items, stuff that we've discussed in the past and we're going to vote on tonight. New public hearing. We have one new public hearing and we have how many continuing applications? One continuing application and two new applications, just to kind of give you a lay of the land. So first off, business items. Again, things that we've discussed in the past, or administrative things we need to do. Acceptance of minutes drafted from the 2/6/2025 and 3/6/2025 planning board meeting. Any questions or comments from board members on the minutes from 2/6 and 3/6? Another, right.
Make a motion to approve the 2/6/2025 and the 3/6/2025
We have a
planning
motion,
board minutes.
motion from John,
Second.
second from Walter. Walter,
Aye.
Jean,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Eileen,
Aye.
and JD.
Aye.
Okay, and an aye from me. Next up on the agenda, request for a 90-day extension of the resolution approved for subdivision application ST 23-04 for the development of vacant parcels located at Bradhurst Avenue, Brighton Avenue, Hawthorne for the construction of an approximate 3,000 square foot business office with storage barn. Additional improvements include driveway, parking area, stormwater mitigation facilities, landscaping, and screened areas. SBL 112.9-1-2 and 3. Owners, Brighton Avenue Properties LLC. Questions or comments from board members?
This request is an extension. They are having some delay with the health department for the subdivision portion of the project, so they're asking for the 90-day extension.
Okay. And final call, questions or comments from board members? Let the record show there's no questions or comments. What is the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion to accept the extension.
Motion from GD,
Second.
second from John. Walter,
Aye.
Jean,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Eileen,
Aye.
and GD.
Aye.
An aye from me. Okay. That brings us to new public hearings. So this is a new public hearing, guys. We have to waive the reading of the public notice for 40 Snowmobile Road. Let's just get that out of the way.
So moved.
Motion from Eileen,
Second.
second from John. Walter,
Aye.
Jean,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Eileen,
Aye.
JD,
Aye.
and I from me. Okay, so we waived the reading of the public notice for 40 Stormville Road, amendment to recently approved site plan application SP 22-03 to include further improvement of circulation, accessible access to the building. Previous approval granted an increase to a total of 335 spaces. Amendment proposes an increase to a total of 340 spaces. Application site plan SP 24-10, steep slopes 24-12, location 40 Silver Road, Dormer, New York. Section block lot number is 116-7-1-4, and zone CRB. Owner and applicant 7th Jam Development LLC, engineer JMC Site Planning LLC, architect Tecton Architects. I think I'm gonna get a job, you know, the guy down at the MTA, making the announcements. So you can't understand what he's saying, you just keep going, you know. All right. Welcome, state your name and all that for the record.
Is this working? Good evening.
And this is a new public hearing, so folks, if anybody's here for this particular application, we can pivot this application to,
Testing, testing.
we can pivot this a little bit so the public can see if there's anybody interested. Yeah, thank you. We've seen it already, but we want to make sure that the public has access to it. Okay.
Mic check.
Mic check. Hello? It's good now? Okay, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Rob Aiello with the firm of JMC. Here tonight with me is the owner and applicant, Alan Getz of 7th Jam Development LLC, and Mr. Stephen Brennan from Tecton Architects. The site is located at 40 Sawmill River Road, which is opposite the Wendy's, which is across the street, and what I've learned is now the former Executive Diner to the south. So this is the property here. It's a 7.5 acre site and it exists as a 1 and 2 story office building project with 74,000 square feet and 234 current parking spaces. The project currently has a site plan approval, which was granted in 2023 and extended as recently as November of 2024 for construction of a total of 350 parking spaces, which is an addition of 116 spaces from what currently exists at the site. The plan before you tonight is a similar plan, proposes 10 fewer spaces, but has many different development or many different changes that have been incorporated into the site plan based on tenant feedback. So this is existing conditions. This is the existing office building. And there's existing parking that goes around the site, but there's no connection currently in existing conditions. This is the site plan that is currently approved on the project and was included for reference. It did provide a connection, but the major change is on the north side, and we'll show you what the changes are in the amended site plan. It's really a matter of dealing with these existing changes in grade. These parking lots are all at different levels, and the intention is to make this more convenient parking and to provide convenient parking to every entrance into the building. The project, or the property, was originally built as an IBM, single tenant use in the 70s or 80s, and then converted to an office building project in the 90s. Since our client acquired it around the year 2000, I think it was 1999, slowly it's been becoming more and more of a medical office facility and less of a traditional office facility. So what the plan does is it provides more convenient parking and more convenient pedestrian access to the various entry points that exist throughout the site. There's entry points on the north side of the building, on the south side of the building. There's 2 levels here. There's another entry in the back and on the side. So what the proposed plan does is it connects all of the parking and puts convenient parking and additional ADA parking in close proximity and more convenient proximity to all of the existing entrances, because these serve existing tenants that have taken various portions of the building over time. So the reason why we're proposing the additional parking is because of the medical nature of the use. Medical office tends to need more parking than an office use because of the scheduling patterns and high patient turnover and increases in parking demand. And it's just the way that medical offices function. It's just a more dense use, and that's why we need the additional parking spaces beyond what's required by the ordinance. So we have included, and we've been working with the town engineer since we met with the board last on December 5th, going through various updates and revisions to the traffic study and to the stormwater management and also to the layout plan. So we've been working with the engineering department, and I think we're at a point now where we've addressed a majority of their comments. And there's one additional comment letter that was issued recently, which was that was issued about 2 weeks ago, where it talked about maybe doing some updates of traffic counts to confirm our original traffic study. We've since done those. We've provided information to the town engineer, and he's currently reviewing that, but I think we're in a place where we've addressed his comments, but obviously you'd need to hear that from the engineering department directly. So the project does include new landscaping throughout the parking lot. It includes new stormwater management. There's an underground stormwater management facility on the north side of the building, and there's a proposed infiltration basin located on the south side of the property.
Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, I remember from the last meeting, I was looking through my notes. We were remiss, we did not add additional landscaping, additional trees along the frontage, but we will add 5 or 6 additional trees along the frontage here to provide some additional landscape interest on the frontage.
I appreciate you giving that consideration, because we're just, as these applications come along the way on 9A, it would be nice to green it up a little bit, so thank you.
Yes.
Anything else, Mr. Aiello?
No, that's it.
Okay. So any questions or concerns from the board?
Rob, that parking lot on the right side,
Here?
yeah, Underneath that is the holding area?
The actual, on this side is the holding area. It's
Okay.
underneath. This green area here
Right.
is a stormwater basin. So this will be an open graded stormwater basin.
Can you point out what's different between what we approved before and what you're proposing now?
Sure. So just to have a side-by-side comparison.
That's what I needed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So the major difference is there's additional parking in the rear behind the building to accommodate the entrance in the back. The north parking has been modified to have, rather than have tiers, because
Yeah.
it does go up in grade, we've modified it to provide a slope here and have all this parking at the same elevation as the upper level of the building.
Okay.
And one other, I'm sorry, there's two other items I didn't mention. I was concentrating on the site plan. And, we can have our architect come up and just show you the building addition, but there is a building addition here. This is primarily for vertical transportation. It's to connect the lower area basement to the upper level. It provides better ADA access at the lower level, and it provides a way for people to get from the upper level to the lower level by stair. And there's also a new maintenance shed in the back that's being proposed, because in existing conditions, if you're familiar with the site, when IBM owned the property, you were actually able to drive up on the roof, and they parked on the roof. And that is coming out as part of the proposed improvements. And there's a storage area underneath there for maintenance of the property. So the building that we're proposing, this small maintenance building, right here, is intended to duplicate that function of the storage area for the maintenance operations of the project.
That addition is an elevator lobby or just stairs?
It's currently shown with stairs and an elevator. But it depends on the tenant needs and the tenant usage as to whether or not an elevator actually gets constructed. But it can accommodate one.
Can you explain, say, for a patient exiting the medical facility from the north area, how are they to proceed in the southbound direction?
So if they're here, they would have a choice of going to either this driveway or this driveway. You'd come out here, and most likely you would go to the northern driveway and leave and make a left-hand turn out.
So describe making a left-hand turn coming out of that exit.
Well, we did do our traffic analysis where we looked at the levels of service at each of the driveways and each movement. And I believe their levels of service C for people that are leaving. So you'd be able to, the traffic is such that there are gaps in the delays where you'd be able to leave at the peak hours without significant delay.
Maybe not delay, but I wouldn't say it's the safest maneuver.
Well, it's the way that the site's been operating, and I'm not aware of any accidents in our traffic study when we looked at the accident history. We could confirm that.
But you're also adding an additional 109 spaces to the facility.
Yes.
So you're saying level C, which is not the worst and it's not the best. A is the best and what, F is the worst?
Well, F is the worst, yes, but C is a very common level of service. I believe C is I'd have to look. I can't recall the delay. I believe it's in the 20-second range, but I could be wrong. I need to check on that.
So you're making improvements to the facility for parking, but you're not proposing any solutions to entering or exiting at those locations.
But we haven't found an issue with the operations at the center.
I'm just asking a question.
Yeah.
So the answer is
The
no.
existing driveways will remain as is, yes.
What has been your discussion with the town engineer regarding this traffic study?
So we've had several different conversations about the traffic. One was whether or not the counts from when the project was originally approved and the traffic study was done in '22 were still valid. So what we've done most recently, have done updated counts and confirmed that in fact the volumes when it was done originally in 2022 were higher at all of the intersections that we analyzed. When you look at the sum total of all the movements at each intersection that we analyzed, and there were 4. It was this intersection, the 2 driveways, and the exit ramp for the Sawmill Parkway.
And you have a light just past the diner, right?
Correct.
And you have a light on Skyline, right?
Correct.
So,
But this project is currently approved, right? So you're in front of us today to ask for an additional 5 spots.
Actually, 10 fewer than what was approved.
10 fewer.
10 fewer, correct.
But you're making adjustments in the site so that it flows better.
Correct. But just to finish that conversation, as recently as today, the town engineer did ask us to look at the levels of service from the new counts, and none of the levels of service changed from our original analysis in terms of the build condition previously analyzed to the build condition now proposed. And in fact, one of the movements did get better.
So Pat, Dave Smith has not weighed in on this information.
Right, he's not confirmed that information, so the levels of service remain C. The delay times within that have varied a little bit.
Correct.
Still remains within C. The issue always is on 9A, it's not so much levels of service, it's rates of speed. And that's always a concern for the left turn movement. And that's part of what Dave's looking at as well with respect to this, but they're working collaboratively and there's a back and forth going on as late as this afternoon.
Yeah, the last comment from Dave was, please run the traffic analysis at the driveways and intersections in the report with the new counts. That was late in the day, so.
Which we did do, and we submitted a new
Later.
email at 4:30
Okay.
today, where we
Okay,
did make
so
that, do that analysis.
I'm sure he's gonna look at it soon enough.
Yes.
but if you really think about it, it's got 2 lights within, I don't know, what is that, quarter of a mile? I mean, the
Oh,
right,
even
Oh,
closer.
left, yeah.
speed-wise, I think it's gonna be, if it's been doing this for this long, I don't see, it's just my opinion.
Yeah, John, this would not meet warrants for a new light if that's where the conversation's going, so this is the intersection that will remain there. So it's a matter of determining the adequacy of the delays.
Also, a point of clarification, it says here that, in our description of the project, that the previous approval granted an increase to a total of 335 spaces. The amendment proposes an increase to a total of 340. That's why JD said 5 more
Right.
spaces. What is the deal? How many spaces? What are we doing?
According to my notes, it's 340 approved currently, 330
Going down to
proposed.
335. Okay, so it's switched. Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions or comments from board members? This is a public hearing, so we want to open it up to the public. If there's anybody here for that element. Going once, going twice, going 3 times for board members, okay. So folks, we are here tonight. This is the only public hearing tonight. Is there anybody here tonight for this application, 40 Somerville Road in Hawthorne? Anybody here for this application for the public hearing? Going once, going twice, going 3 times. Let the record show that there is no public comment or people from the public here tonight to talk about 40 Somerville Road. Okay, back to the board. What are the thoughts on the board on this application? We have an application. There is a pending memo probably needed from Dave. But any other final thoughts or questions from the board members? I would, my thought as just one board member is anything we do probably should be pending Dave's final comments. which is typical, and we don't have the final comment from him.
Yeah, so I would say it's unexpected that Dave's last review would result in changes to the plan.
Correct, yeah.
That's the risk you'll take, though, if you choose to close the public hearing and direct approvals of the plan, subject to Dave. Dave could come back with a comment that results in a change, in which case you'd have to redo the public hearing for a modified plan.
I would think that would be unusual, though.
I think so too. Again, this has been a cooperative effort between the applicant and the engineering department, so I think they're on the same page. But I can't speak for Dave.
No, but it was late in the day, but as a courtesy to Dave, we want to make sure that we include him in the process. So, anyway,
So here's a suggestion.
yeah,
You can direct if you choose to do this and you want to move toward approval, direct the preparation of approval resolutions for the next meeting, but keep the public hearing open in case there is a change to the plan. Then we don't have to renotice a public hearing, and they would lose time to do it that way.
so one more time, Pat, I didn't quite
So
understand.
we could keep the public hearing open.
Yeah.
So if Dave does make a change and the driveway shifts 3 inches.
Yeah,
If we close the public hearing and that change, they have to renotice a new public hearing and then have another public hearing.
Yeah.
If we keep it open, we could just address the change, and it
Yeah.
wouldn't lose any time because we'd have the approval resolutions ready for you at the
yeah,
next meeting.
and that's just an administrative step, for the most part.
Yeah. And again, I don't think this is controversial. You don't have people
No,
here.
I don't think so.
But-
I don't think so.
You have to have a public hearing on the plan you're approving.
Yeah. Okay, so pleasure of the board.
I make a motion exactly what Pat just said.
So during the public
I'll
hearing
second what he said.
and direct the preparation of approval.
So in the preparation of the resolution, one thing, I just want to make sure we don't forget the trees on the front.
Yes.
So we can put something in that resolution. It's not on the plan, but we want to make sure that's at least in the resolution, because I want to drive by someday and say those trees are there.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion from John and a second from JD and a little amendment by me. We'll start off at the top. Walter,
Aye.
Jane,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Eileen,
Aye.
JD,
Aye.
and an aye from me. Okay, so I think we're moving you along.
Okay, thank
All
you
right.
very much. See
Oh.
you next month.
Thank you. Thank you for coming out tonight. All right. Next up is a continuing application. It is not a public hearing. Proposed 399 Old Sleepy Hollow Road, Pleasantville, New York, subdivision of a one lot into two for the purposes of development of a single-family dwelling. Application PSD 25-01. Location 399 Old Sleepy Hollow Road, Pleasantville, New York. Section block number is 105.18-1-19 and 20, zone R40. Owner and applicant Joe and Zulima Montiel. Did I get that right? Engineer and architect is ARQ Architecture PC. Welcome tonight, and just state your name and all that for the record.
Sure. Good evening. Corey Salomon from Zarin and Steinmetz here tonight on behalf of the applicant. I have Javier Hernandez from ARQ here with me as well. As you will recall from the last meeting, it was pretty straightforward 2-lot subdivision here. We focused our discussion on 3 main things. One were your consultants' memos, DEC determination, and we have heard from DEC. They are going to take jurisdiction, so we have submitted our wetland application to them. And then there was the appendage that we wanted to put from Lot 1 into Lot 2, so we've made that adjustment for you as well. And so procedurally, I think we've addressed all the comments. So we'd like to schedule the public hearing, but
So
here to answer any questions you guys may have.
And I think you're pending a variance, right? Are you pending a variance
No,
on this?
we don't need any variances.
There's no variance on this? I think I'm confused. Look at that. All right. That never happens.
Yeah,
No.
there are pre-existing nonconformities.
Yes.
Yeah.
But they don't need variances. They're pre-existing conditions.
Okay, my apologies.
Yeah.
Okay, any questions or comments from board members?
Thank you for clearing all that. land up
Absolutely.
and everything. Now it's cut and dry and.
Makes more sense.
Yep.
Okay, so the question before us tonight is this ready for a public hearing? That's the pleasure of the board, but it sounds like we're leaning in that direction.
So let me just add the monkey wrench to this, which is this is the first time we've experienced the DEC taking control of a
This
local
new
wetland
form, right.
application. Will the DEC change something or modify something in the process of their permit? They have 90 days to issue the permit, I think, once they accept jurisdiction. This is the problem with the DEC inserting their role. We could have moved this you may say, I don't know what the DEC is gonna do, let's wait. This could delay this application 90 days to wait for the
So
DEC to act.
if worse comes to worse and we schedule a public hearing and they don't have everything they need from the DEC, we could just leave the public hearing open, right?
You can, or it could be, it's a separate permit, so you could approve this subject to. My point is, I don't know how the DEC is gonna be dealing with local wetland permits these days, so
Right.
And
they may
DEC
change everything, who
And
knows?
the DEC could take, they're on their own time.
Statutorily, they're obligated to act within 90 days, so.
Yeah,
We'll see.
But within that 90 days, that's a definitive response? It's a yes or a no?
Yes, but that's what the new statute says. This is the first time we're seeing it happen, so they haven't.
Yeah, lucky us. And we've tried to reach out to DEC, and we've got voicemail
Yeah, well,
many times. I guess the 5 people reviewing all the wetlands applications for the state are busy.
3 people.
But
Oh, 3, my bad.
I don't feel like we're painting ourselves into a corner with that, because if worse comes to worse, we have a couple mechanisms to navigate around, and one of them is keep a public hearing open. I don't think there's really a reason for me individually as a board member to hold anything up for at least schedule the public hearing. That's my take on it.
I agree.
Make a motion to schedule a public hearing.
Okay, so we have a motion from John,
Second.
second from Jane. Walter,
Aye.
Jane,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Eileen,
Aye.
JD,
Aye.
and an aye for me. Okay, was that easier?
That was
Did we
great.
follow?
Perfect. Thank you very much. Have a great night.
All right. Okay. Next up, these are brand new applications right off the printing press. Proposed 145 Bennett Place, legalized cut and fill grading and the construction of a concrete retaining wall in excess of 6 feet at rear portion of property.
To Brad, I mean,
Did I skip one?
you skipped, like,
Oh, it's not on my list.
No, that's,
Oh,
that's a different
do I have
one.
an old agenda?
I think this is what she gave out tonight, so I think
Okay.
it's on the back. We're good, come on up. Application,
they moved.
steep slope SS 25-03, location 145 Bennett Place, Hawthorne, New York. Section block number is 111.11-1-11. Zone R10, Michael Stallone, applicant and engineers. With me,
Yeah.
and Dia Grid Engineer. Welcome, state your name and all that for the record. Thank you for coming out tonight.
Good evening. My name is Ashfaq Mir. I'm the staff engineer at the Diagrid Consultants
So
Engineers.
just do me a big favor, just try to project your voice, and here's why. There's people at home who actually do watch us,
Oh, okay.
so just make sure people can hear you.
Yeah. My name is Ashfaq Mir. I'm the project engineer from Diagrid Consultants. I'm representing on behalf of them for 145 Bennett Place. And we are seeking the permit for an as-built condition on the property. So the owner already built a wall on top of an existing retaining wall, for which we are seeking the permit.
Okay, so do we have any drawings or anything?
Yeah, I do have. I was told to get a pen drive. I have, and also we did submit the hard copies actually.
Okay, so, we don't have to get too hung up on this fact, so we know, so next time we probably, do need
Sure.
to get a drawing or something, and bring your laptop so we can see it, but I think for this beginning part of the process, we probably don't need to get too detailed with that, but I want to understand what happened with this wall. Do we know why we built a wall and didn't get a permit?
So the owner wanted to use backyard for recreational purposes,
Yeah,
and he raised the wall about maybe like 40 inches, about 40 inches on top of an existing retaining wall.
so,
So-
I'm sorry, how big was the wall on top of an existing wall?
The new wall is about 42 inches.
42 inches on top, so I'm.
Yeah, maybe 3 feet to 3.5 feet.
Okay, so but there's points of the wall that are almost 10 feet tall, correct?
There was an existing wall that was 5 feet tall, and then it showed 4.5 feet tall built on top of it.
So so this property, so the land behind this property is a slope, and there is a road behind the property, like maybe after like 30-40 feet, but there's a steep slope right behind the backyard of this property. So there was an existing retaining wall, maybe it's a town wall, concrete retaining wall. So from within the property, the existing wall was just at the level of the grade. So the owner raised a new CMU wall, which is about 3.5 feet. But if we measure the height of the wall from, you know, behind the wall, it comes about 9 to 10 feet overall, including both the existing and the new one, because the existing wall was already 6 feet. So yeah.
Okay, so, yeah, I think we need to understand a lot more than what we have here tonight. So,
Okay.
so I think we're going to need to have more plans, because what I want to understand are a couple things. I want to understand what's behind that property and who is behind that wall. Like, what's past that wall? I know it's, I think, out of some municipality, whether it's the state or the town or the county, must own that property behind there, right? So I want to make sure we understand that we have a full plan of like what is there today, and we understand the water mitigation measures that are part of that wall today. And I don't know if improvements need to be made as a result of the wall being built. Does the town engineer need to get engaged with that conversation? So what we have here is a wall that should have never been built. We don't really have any plans to talk about, and we need to understand the whole picture. So there's really not too much more to talk about tonight, other than the fact that we need positive understanding, not a positive understanding, a full understanding of
Correct.
of everything in that environment, because we have to be careful, because that is a sensitive area, because behind that wall,
Right.
on the other side of the road, there's some streams and wetland. On the other side of that wall, other side of that road
It
behind you.
is, yeah, there's a road after the steep
And behind
slope.
that road, though, I do know for a fact there's a little bit of a stream or a wetland on the other side.
I'm not sure about that. Sorry.
It is.
Yeah.
That's a small conversation, but I want to make sure we understand the whole picture. We can't really talk about anything other than.
And I still do have a few questions,
Oh,
though.
yeah, of course.
Okay, so the application said that you wanted it to prevent runoff from going onto the site from the adjacent property, but the topography along that whole block looks like it's pretty even for all the houses on that side of the street, so I don't know where the water was coming from. I wanted to know if this is legalization, when was the wall built? How long has it been like this? And also, the cross-sections show the wall standing by itself. It's not a retaining wall that was backfilled to provide a level backyard. Is it just fall protection? Like, that additional part just looks like a freestanding wall.
Yeah, so it is a fall protection wall, I must say, but there is a paved area, a small 16 feet by 17 feet. So whenever we have a paved area and it's a bit lower than the actual grade, so whenever there's rainfall or something, the water gets accumulated in that area. So we are proposing a dry well in that area, so that the water, you know, doesn't accumulate into the soil and, you know, build up pressure on the wall. So that's the reason. And also the town code doesn't allow us to have weep holes into the neighboring properties, but as a matter of fact, when we say neighboring property, the land behind this building is not a residential use. It's a town's land. I mean, so the owner
Well,
thought.
we don't know it's a town's land. We know, I think it may belong to the state or the county. I don't know if it's the town. Whoever it is, like, we need to get that understanding of who owns that property behind that wall.
And I hate to ask, was that patio, that 16 by 16 patio, built with a permit? Because aerial images show that it wasn't there a few years ago, so it was.
So it was built in the winter, 2024. It's been about like 8-9 months.
Okay.
So yeah, there's no permit. So we did go to the building department initially because our office is new to the town. This is our first project, so We were told to get a variance because it's an as-built condition and the zoning doesn't allow more than 6 feet. But as a matter of fact, the new wall is only about 3 to 4 feet. But when it's measured from behind,
downhill
it's
side,
coming
it exceeds
more
the
than
6
6
feet, yeah.
feet. So, and we were also told to get a steep slope permit for that. Yeah.
Okay, you've got a lot there, okay.
How do we verify the construction of the wall at this point?
Sorry.
How can we verify the construction of the wall?
So there are like couple of we proposed a couple of the certain tests. So we could do a rebar scan for a CMU wall, so that we get to know at how many like at how many cells the contractor put the rebar, because it is very essential to have rebar in the new wall because
Especially if it's freestanding.
yeah, if it's
Right.
freestanding, because if not all, the wind because it is high at the higher grade, looking from behind, wind loads are like significant, so it should withstand that. So for that, the code says that we need to have some rebar into the block, and also it has to be grouted. So we could perform couple of tests just to make sure that it is as per the
We
standards.
could scan for rebar, but we would have to drill to see if it's grouted.
We would have to get a core drill test, which says there is some grout, and also it specifies the compressive strength of the grout. So
So you're gonna have to do brake tests.
yeah, so it's kind of like the American Council Institute, the ACI 318 code suggests to get at least 3 samples, and average of 3 should be equivalent to about like 3,000 psi minimum.
So we're gonna need all those tests, and we're gonna need drawings, which I'm sure you have on there. You can print them out, put them on the board so the public can see,
Okay.
and all your details for the wall and how you're attaching it to the new wall
Sure.
and all that. So we got a little bit of time.
Yeah, because that's the question of it, like, how does this new wall attach to the old wall?
There's probably have a detail for it, Jim, that
Yeah.
drills into the existing
Yeah,
wall.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
But we gotta
what we
assume that
do
was
need-
done correctly, though. Sorry, Pat,
Yeah,
but we
so
would have
that's-
to assume that was done correctly, John.
We have had, if you remember, a couple of years ago, we've had an illegally constructed wall. We've had it dismantled in a portion of it to verify how it was constructed. So it's a significant issue. The testing may be satisfactory, but that's an
Right.
issue that has to be addressed. You need a full topographic survey of the property and the area surrounding the property. So to Eileen's point, we understand the relationship property, so we just have some spot elevations and some sections. We need a full topographic survey as well, so that may take some time to get done. But the testing, you should coordinate with the town engineer to find out if what you're suggesting is appropriate, or if we have to, dig a hole in the wall.
And here's why it's important. You know, there was a story, I think, last year where a wall fell on the Metro North last year, much bigger wall. But we have to make sure, that's why you're here tonight. We have to make sure that we're doing the right thing, because we have to make sure we protect the public and the people in the surrounding area. And especially since there's a main artery behind that house, I think that's the connection to 9A. We have to make sure we do this right.
We gotta get the deck approved too. The deck has gotta be legalized, so maybe we'll start with that while you're waiting for the other stuff.
Okay, so you have a bunch of stuff to do, so I don't know, unless the other board members have other things to say, I think we need to get a bunch of stuff straightened out with the town before you come back and talk to us further. Any other questions?
The owner should come with you next time, so you don't have to stand in front of the firing squad alone.
Sure.
All right.
Thank you.
But thank you for coming out.
Thank you. Good evening.
Okay, next up, but not least, but last, 95 Bradhurst, Blythedale Children's Hospital, 3-phase improvement plan, including expansion for long-term care, parking deck, and improvements to site utilities and infrastructure. Application site plan SP-25-02, location 95 Bradhurst Avenue, Valhalla. section block lot number 117.17-1-2, zone R20, owner and applicant Blythedale Children's Hospital, engineer architect Langen Colliers, E4H Architecture. It must be hard to be the last one on the agenda.
Not tonight.
Tonight is
Tonight
usually
is
late.
early.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
But boy, did that guy get out of here quick or what?
So thank you very much, Chairman and members of the board. For the record, my name is Janet Garris. I'm a partner with Del Bello, Donnell, Weingarten, Wise, and Whitaker, and I'm pleased to be here this evening on behalf of Blythedale Children's Hospital. Joining me this evening, Larry Levine, the president and CEO of Blythedale. He is here with his team, and you'll hear from Larry in a moment about how they really do the work of angels. Also joining me this evening, Jennifer Arbuckle, senior principal with E4H Architects. I've had the pleasure of working with Jennifer on a whole bunch of different projects, and their firm is solely dedicated to healthcare and health services. So we are pleased to have her here this evening and her expertise. As I mentioned, Larry will discuss it a little bit further. I think you're all familiar with Blythedale, but it is a national leader in improving the health and quality of life of children with complex medical illnesses and disabling conditions through superb multidisciplinary care, teaching, research, and advocacy programs. So their property is located at 95 Bradhurst Avenue in Valhalla. The property consists of approximately 12.6 acres, and it's located in an R21 family residential district of the town. It's currently improved with a 2-story brick hospital containing approximately 235,000 square feet, together with related parking and infrastructure. Larry will talk to you a little bit more about the history of Blythedale. It was founded in 1891, and it's been at this current location in Valhalla since 1922. Blythedale was last before the board back in 2007 and 2008 in connection with an amended site plan approval for its expansion at that time, and that is the building that exists today. We are here seeking from this board amended site plan approval to permit the expansion of its existing facilities to address the ever-growing need for specialized long-term pediatric care in our community and across New York State. I have worked on myself a number of these different projects, not only with Blythedale, but with some of the other institutions, and I can tell you that there is a growing demand for this, and Blythedale is no different. So the project that we are proposing is proposed in 3 separate components and to be constructed in 3 phases, and Jennifer will talk about that in more detail, but just to give you an overview of that. The first phase and the 3 components, a 1-story parking structure containing approximately 132 parking spaces. The second phase is intended to be a ring road around the existing hospital building together with related infrastructure, which will be necessary to support the new expansion of the building. And then a proposed new 2-story building addition for the provision of a net of 44 additional long-term beds. So I'd like to introduce Larry. He'll talk to you a little bit more about Blythedale. Jennifer will present the plan from you. I just want to mention that we did receive the comments of Mr. Cleary, our professional consultant. We don't have answers to those comments this evening. We did, some of them we do actually, but we received them this morning. And I did want to consult with Pat and your building official to just talk a little bit about the history of the approvals for this project. I know Mr. Cleary mentioned special permit, which is within the zoning board's purview, along with several area variances. There is an existing special permit here, so I think we would need to modify that, but we will have the need for several area variances as well. So I don't want to speak for too long. The paint might start coming off the walls, but I'd like to introduce Larry, and he can talk to you a little bit about Blythedale, and then introduce Jennifer, and she'll walk you through the pieces of the project. I do want to mention we do have our consulting team here this evening. Mike Finan with Langen Engineering is here, and he can answer any engineering questions you might have as well.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Pleasure to be here in front of the planning board. I'm Larry Levine, the CEO of Blythedale Children's Hospital, and I think the last time we presented a project here was 2007. So it's been a little bit of time, but I'd like to just spend about 5 minutes just taking you through a little bit of the mission and programs of Blythedale, and then I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer Arbuckle, our architect, to take you through some of the detail. So So basically, and some of you have been to Blythedale, I know, a while back. We're a specialty children's hospital. We have 94 licensed pediatric acute rehabilitation beds, 24 pediatric long-term care beds, so 118 beds on our campus. Our primary diagnoses are ventilator weaning. We got a lot of kids with immature lungs, bad breathing problems, and we wean them from the ventilator. Brain injuries are really important. Kids that have strokes, epilepsy, brain tumors, things of that nature. We have New York State's only licensed pediatric TBI or traumatic brain injury unit in the entire state. We have kids with complications of prematurity. About 50 to 60% of our patients are under the age of 2. So they're post-neonatal care. And then kids have difficulty keeping foods down, so we have complex feeding problems and intensive rehabilitation, mostly with kids that have cancer. They've been really debilitated by their lymphoma or their leukemia, and they come to Blythedale not only for ongoing chemotherapy and medical management, but also for rehabilitation as they try to regain their strength. All of our admissions and referrals come from other hospitals in the downstate region. 70% of those referrals come from the ICU, either the neonatal ICU or the pediatric ICU. And that gives you a sense of the complexity of the young infants and children that we're taking care of. Our length of stay has come down. It's now, the median length of stay is about 2 months. It's about 60 days on the acute rehabilitation side. And we serve children from all over the state of New York, primarily from the 5 boroughs and from the Hudson Valley and from Long Island. Next slide. No, that's okay. So despite all this medical complexity, we send children home 90% of the time. It's a real wonderful success rate. And Blythedale is a very unique, I know every hospital says they're unique, we really are unique, because we're the only one in the state that does this kind of acute rehabilitative care. And we are independent, freestanding. Many hospitals, as you know, have joined systems. I still report to a board of trustees and we control our own destiny. We're actually one of 59 independent children's hospitals in the entire United States. Many have again joined with systems. And there are only 15 specialty children's hospitals across the United States like Blythedale. So we are very much a unique resource. Next slide, Dan. So who are medically fragile kids? Well, the good news is there are not many of them. There are only about 0.7% of the population. And in New York State, the number is verified by the Department of Health. We have 28,000 kids statewide. Multiple diagnoses. No kid just comes in with one problem. They come in, unfortunately, with multiple problems. Many are life-threatening and certainly debilitating and painful medical conditions and physical conditions. Several are technologically dependent. Probably 30 to 40 ventilators are run at any one particular day, which is one of the highest actually in the state for kids. And we represent only 2% of the hospitalized pediatric patients. So if you go to Columbia Presbyterian or Maria Ferrari here in Westchester, and they have 10,000 discharges, only 2% of them are deemed medically fragile. So there are not a lot of kids, but Blythedale is the place in the state to come to. Next slide. So just took a picture of one of the infants in our post-neonatal unit just to give you a sense of kind of the medical complexity of these children. And as I said, we get these kids home 90% of the time. They stay median length of stay of two months. Next slide. So where Blythedale fits into the healthcare ecosystem, if you go all the way on the left, the acute care hospital, where we get our referrals, most of those kids, thank God, go home, right? 98% of those kids go home. Some do need long-term care, and we'll talk about that in a minute, because there's very few pediatric long-term care beds in the entire state of New York. Or they can go to Blythedale. So they have 3 options. Most go home, go to long-term care, or you go to Blythedale. And at Blythedale, we just talked about what we do. And what happens after Blightdale? 9 out of 10 kids go home, but unfortunately some require pediatric long-term care. Our 24 beds have been full since we opened in September of 2016. We have a very long waiting list of children that really need to come in. Many of those kids might go to St. Margaret's up in Albany, or they go out of state, and the state really wants these kids housed and hospitalized much closer to where the parents live. Next slide. So this sort of gives you a little bit of the history. Blightdale has been in our current location since 1922. So we've been there a long time. As you can see, in 1961 was when we transitioned from a convalescent home since our beginning in 1891 to a hospital, and then became licensed as a hospital in 1961. And our first major building project was 1964, the school, 1971. And then 2011 is when we opened the replacement hospital of those 94 beds, the project that you all approved back in July of 2008. And then, of course, we opened in 2016 the 24 beds of long-term care, simply because we couldn't send kids to any other facilities. Elizabeth Seton, St. Mary's, and Ossining, Sunshine House are all full, unfortunately. The children tend to stay there a very long time. Parents do come on the weekends, but during the week, they are basically cared for in these facilities. And the state health department has determined that there is just a significant lack for these children. These children are born premature. They're being saved in neonatal ICUs all across downstate New York. Great medical care, great technology, and then they need places to go, and Blightdale would be one of those places. So that gives you a little bit of an overview of who we are, where we've been, and now I'm going to turn it over to the architect, Jennifer Arbuckle, who's done all of our planning since 2003.
Welcome, welcome.
Thank you. So as has been told to you, I'm Jennifer Arbuckle from E4H Architecture. So I just have a very quick overview. You have a lot of information that was given to you as part of our application. I'm going to do a quick summary, and then if you have questions, we have other consultants who worked on various pieces of the project, but we can all answer questions for you. So this first slide gives you an overview of the campus. The main hospital building is sort of in the middle. As I think many of you know, but if you don't, it's a very long and skinny site. It's maybe 300 feet top to bottom, and as you can see, it's quite lengthy. The existing, it's hard for me to do this. Well, the main hospital building is in the middle. The parking lot, the existing parking lot is on the right-hand side. There is, the school is the piece that comes down towards Bradhurst, which is on the bottom. The Spring Parkway is on the top. The long-term care, existing long-term care was built in the old rooms that were vacated when we built the replacement hospital, which is the addition sort of on the top right. The proposed project is to build a one-story parking deck on top of the existing parking lot. So we're sort of would have one level underneath, and we would have a new level, one deck that goes up, 10 or 12 feet to make a new parking level. The second piece of the project would be to connect the roads around the back. So right now, there's a road that comes around partway, and the loading dock is on the left-hand side, but there's nothing in between them to connect them. So one of the things that we would like to do is connect those and build a new loading dock in the back. The loading dock that's currently serving the hospital was built in the 60s. There's many things that are not great about it. One of the things that is really not great is that right now, the trucks that deliver to it come in on the left-hand side, they back down around the hospital and back into the loading dock and then drive away. Our goal would be that they would come in on the right, they would be able to go across the new road in the back and then back in a little bit, but they're not backing an 18-wheeler, down and around a corner. behind the hospital. And it would improve some other aspects of the loading dock as well. And then the third part of the project, the third phase, would be the actual expansion of the long-term care to add the beds that we were discussing. And that would be in that little green space, or what was green space, just to the left of the current long-term care, and it would be connected in. So as we were preparing to come and submit our site planning application to you, we've done traffic and parking study. We looked at all of those things. That's how we arrived at the number of parking spaces that were needed, and we looked at the current traffic conditions. We did a geotechnical report so we understand the soil and site conditions underneath, and we have reviewed our planning with the Valhalla Fire Department, so we've had an initial look at the moves that we're trying to make on the site and made sure that they were comfortable with those. So as I said, the goal would be to do this in 3 phases. So phase 1 would be the parking deck, the second would be the ring road. The schedule for that one, because I don't have a separate slide for it, the idea would be that that one would be done between like May of 2026 and December of 2026. And then the long-term care expansion would be after that. So the parking deck, the approximate schedule for that would be September of 2025, pending approval, obviously, through May of 2026. Our goal is to have these phases be completely sequential, not to have a long gap in between, but to do one and then do the next. Part of that is because we have to do that in order to keep the hospital fully operational the whole time. Trying to do all of this at one time would be very difficult. The parking deck is really needed to help clear some of the traffic and the parking. We're not removing any of the parking on the left-hand side of the site, but it makes it much easier to have the spaces available on the other side of the campus. I think as you think about the parking deck, we talked about it a little bit. Janet mentioned a few things. So we have about 132 spaces. The goal is to have a solar array on top of the parking deck to capture solar for the energy for the hospital. We have 3 2-port car charging stations planned as part of this. And as I said before, it's a 1-story deck with existing on-grade parking that would be underneath it. We have to make some revisions, obviously, to build the deck, but it would be essentially in the same location underneath. And as I said, it would help with the parking during the remaining 2 phases of the construction project. So the long-term care expansion, the schedule for that would follow the other 2, so it would be October of 26 through February of 2028. We think it's about a 2 to 2.5 year project, depending on timing of things. As Jana mentioned, we would add 44 beds. The 2 stories, it's a basement level, which daylights on the back side towards the sprain. Then there are 2 floors of beds on top of that, which are what you would see from Bradhurst. You would just see those 2 floors. You wouldn't see the backside because the site slopes down and around on the backside. And then it connects into the existing hospital on both levels. The site, from the main entrance of the hospital, it slopes up 1 whole story to the left-hand side of the campus. And so there's a grade change of 1 story, which is why the height difference would be different as you come around the building. As Larry said, we have 24 beds now. We would do renovations to some of those beds in order to build this addition adjacent to it. So some of those beds would come out of service. So the 44 that we're talking about is net. There's actually a few more beds in the addition in order to compensate for that. The basement area is primarily mechanical space and some shell space. Part of that is so that we can get most of the large mechanical items in the basement and not on top of the roof, which helps keep the height of the addition, the perception of the height of the addition down from those that are driving around the building. And I can talk a little bit about materials if you want to. It's a little early still, but the intent is to, for the long-term care, would be to have brick that's very similar to we want to continue the language of the campus already. So there'd be brick, there'd be a little bit of color. It's a children's hospital. We like to continue to have a little bit of playful elements. So you can see there's some color intended in some of the glass areas and then curtain wall. But the intent is to tie it into the campus and sort of continue the fairly modern architecture, but hopefully in a appealing, whimsical way. I think that's all I have. Obviously, we're more than happy to answer any questions that you have.
Yeah, I think, for me, there will be more questions, that's natural, but I think we're so early in the process, we're here really more about lead agency conversation and a few other things, so.
Yeah.
But there will be plenty of questions.
And as Janet said,
Unless there's other board members who have questions at this point.
I have a couple.
Sure, go right ahead and do it. Into it.
Excuse me, procedurally, Pat, your memo notes that the special permit use in this district is subject to approval by the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Right.
So why would the planning board be the lead agency for that? If you could just explain that.
So we still have site plan approval authority.
Oh, okay,
and
okay.
The zoning board is unfamiliar with seeker. So
Okay.
I think you're the better suited board to handle the process.
Okay,
So we'll do a coordinator, we'll ask them, but I think
Okay.
they'll defer to you.
okay. Also, things that I like are the location of the addition, the improvements to circulation. Concerns are the 7 variances indicated in Pat's memo, some of which were not hard, but you might need a variance. But once this goes to a public hearing, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of concern by the residents at Lisa Lane. Those houses are about 14 feet lower than the existing condition. The plan shows that all trees along their dividing line will be removed, so that's going to be quite a visual impact when you throw another story on top. It's going to be looming over their backyards, and the removal of all the existing trees is a concern.
We do have landscaping planned around the whole perimeter of the property, both facing Lisa Lane and also around as it turns the corner towards the spring. So there will be new landscaping, with the goal being to completely screen as much as possible from the neighbors. for that
Yes, it was a
reason. Yeah.
robust landscaping plan,
Yes.
but the maturity of the existing trees and the loss of them is going to be a concern, and I expect that the neighbors will have a lot to say about that.
Yes, Larry has a very good relationship with all the neighbors, and so we'll be sure to be talking to them throughout the process.
Good.
Any other questions or comments from board members?
I have a question. Can you describe briefly what you've done to study traffic along Bradhurst? I think it's a 2-lane road and it's very well used. And then, so what was the outcome of your traffic study, just briefly, as to how you plan to mitigate or address traffic entering and exiting the 2 locations?
Turn it over to my
Good evening. Just to introduce myself, Rich D'Andrea, Colliers Engineering and Design. So we prepared the traffic and parking study that was submitted to your board. On traffic, we obviously did traffic counts along that corridor of Bradhurst at the driveways and at the intersection with Grasslands Road. There obviously are some issues at the main intersection there, but really what we looked at was the traffic that we're going to generate. We looked at what is being generated today, and then projecting based on that what our new traffic generation is. When you look at what we anticipate generating, it's about 30 to 40 trips in the AM and PM peak hour additional. And when you add that to what's on the road today, it's only about 1% of the traffic that's being accommodated at the Grasslands Road intersection. So it's not, in our opinion, that wouldn't be a significant increase in traffic. Now, granted, we know that there are delays there and things that are dealt with. So in order to kind of facilitate access into and out of the site, we did look at some things. So at the southerly access, right now, there are some left turns in and out of there, which are difficult at certain times of the day. So one of our recommendations was actually signing that with no left turns, basically making that a right turn in, right turn out driveway, but also striping a do not block box at that location so that queues would stop on either side of the driveway so people could get out more freely. The other thing that we did look at was site distance. There were some recommendations for improving site distance at both driveways. There's some clearing and grading that we recommended to just improve site distance to make getting into and out of the driveways a little bit easier. And then the other thing that we did note was that there's an existing bus stop at the northern driveway that it's positioned on the south side of the driveway. but the sidewalk is on the north side of the driveway, and there's kind of a landing pad there too. So we kind of noted that the bus stop location just should be relocated to the other side of the street. And there were some other clearing and site distance improvements that we had recommended for some of the other locations along Bradhurst there, just to kind of improve the overall condition. But in general, the amount of traffic that we're generating here, we don't see any significant impacts as far as
I don't
additional
know
traffic.
the grades in the back, but is there a way to exit that building onto Grasslands Road? No, right, it's different, it's way too high.
No, we, in fairness, Pat asked the same question early on in this discussion. We did look at it very quickly, but if you go back, because I think it shows on the site plan we had up there. The exit to get onto the Sprain starts right. So two things. So Grassland is a divided highway at that point.
Right.
So the exit, the queuing for the exit starts like halfway up the property because it's so skinny. We did look at it, and there is a grade change also, pretty significant, like 10 feet, I want to say, yeah. So we believe me, if there was any way.
It was something that we all looked at early on when we started this guy.
Also, is it wide enough? Is Bradhurst wide enough to have a turning lane? I can't remember if there is going into the site. Is there a turning lane?
There is not a turning lane
Okay.
today, no. And the width of the road is such that you wouldn't be, right now, wouldn't be able to stripe an additional lane in there.
And,
So.
and the don't block the box thing, you're talking about right next to the light? Or
Yes,
close to the light?
correct.
That's
Yeah.
gonna be a challenge because people are not gonna listen to that. 'Cause that's very crowded in the morning, that spot.
The intention is obviously that people would obey that, but that in addition to the formalization of a kind of no left turns at that location should help flow into and out of
So
there.
the typical questions that we get whenever there's a traffic analysis done is, when was the traffic study done? Was it done at the right times of year? Because
Sure.
we often get, well, you did it in July, you should have had it done in May. So have you?
Yeah, so our traffic counts and our parking counts were done in February of last year.
February of last year.
There was no holidays, schools were in session, so they should be representative of typical traffic conditions.
And have you thought about, or have you have access to the traffic study that was done for the assisted living facility on Grasslands Road?
Excuse me?
There's an assisted living facility on Grasslands Road, and there was an extensive traffic study done there.
Yeah, we actually looked at a couple different traffic studies when we were doing ours. So I think that was one of them. We looked at, there was a study that was available for the Westchester Medical Center as well, and then there was also a study for the North 60. So all of those were all considered as part of our analysis.
And those are the questions that are going to come
Yep.
up, so as you know.
Yep.
So you did look at North 80 because that's the other big one, and
Mhm.
the Amazon building was probably in place at that point already.
Yeah.
So, okay, so those are the kind of the typical questions, as you know, because you've been here before, other boards, I'm sure, where those are the questions we get.
Yep.
Okay, but we can get into all those details. Any other questions or comments from board members? I have one final question. Any other questions before I throw mine out? Just my final question is I'm just curious, the ambulance services, I don't think you guys necessarily, but the ambulance services, who services the children from an ambulance perspective?
Multiple. Sometimes so the ones that we arrange. So it depends on what the service is. So the ones we arrange planned transfers could be senior care, Empress are the typical ones. If it's a 911 call, it could be Empress or it could be Valhalla. If it's the ambulance coming from the referral hospitals, it's often their ambulances, so New York Presbyterian, Northwell. So it's a mix of different services.
Okay, so as we move down the road, we probably need to notify Valhalla Ambulance just to make sure that, and the only reason I'm bringing that up is because they're staffed by volunteers. We want to make sure that they're aware of the fact that this is coming down the road, because they are stretched thin with volunteers, so they should at least have some knowledge of the pending.
Yeah, and for this
development.
population, our long-term care population, there's fewer emergent transfers. They're generally planned.
Yeah, I'm just dotting the i's and crossing
Yep.
the t's. That's what my
Understood.
job is, and I want to make sure that they're at least aware of the fact that it's coming. not now, but not you, I'm sorry, but not, we don't have to notify them today, but at some point in the future. That came across a little abrupt, didn't it?
So, which brings me to my next point, and that is that we are hoping that the board will declare its intent to be lead agency this evening. We talked about doing a coordinated review for this, and if in fact you do that, then I would simply recommend adding them as an interested agency. They don't, obviously don't have approval authority, so they wouldn't be involved, but they can be an interested agency, and they can be apprised of what's going on with the application.
Thank you very much. Thank you for clarifying.
So I guess, gotta make a motion to declare ourselves lead agency?
So that's basically, then they're gonna do there are other pieces themselves with the variances and all that. So the big question tonight is the lead agency.
I make a motion to declare.
All right, so we have a motion that for lead agency.
I'll
That's
second.
From John, second from JD. Walter.
Aye.
Jane.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Eileen.
Aye.
And JD.
Aye.
And an aye for me. Thank you very much. And as a side note, you guys, you know, now I'm not speaking as the chairman or the planning board member. The work that you guys do is really wonderful in terms of the children, the people that you care for, and it's commendable that there's such a wonderful community-based hospital to help those who are in need. So thank you for the work that you do. Thank you.
Thank you, and we look forward to working with you as we go through this.
Thank you, us as well.
Thank you.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Well, you can stay.